Imagine a fleet of warships not sailing on the water, but climbing over rugged hills in the dead of night. This is the story of a 21-year-old sultan who did the impossible to change the world forever. Under the dark skies of Edirne, a 21-year-old man stood on his palace balcony. His eyes were fixed on the horizon, toward a city that for centuries was considered impossible to conquer. In his hands was an old map, its edges worn from years of study. This young man was Muhammad, known to history as Al-Fatih the Conqueror. To him, Constantinople was not just a city, it was a promise waiting to be kept. His preparations were not merely about sharpening swords, but about outsmarting the world. He gathered the finest architects and engineers, including a master metalworker named Orban, to build something never seen before, a massive cannon capable of firing stones weighing hundreds of pounds. However, the Great Walls of Theodosius were no easy target. They had stood tall for 1,000 years, mocking every invader who had tried and failed to break them. When the siege began in the spring of 1453, the world held its breath. The thunder of Al-Fatih's cannons shook the earth. But every time a section of the wall crumbled, the defenders quickly rebuilt it under the cover of night. Frustration grew among his generals when a massive iron chain across the Golden Horn Bay blocked the Ottoman navy. Without controlling that water, the city could not be fully surrounded. It was here that Al-Fatih's genius defied all logic. In the middle of a silent night, he ordered thousands of soldiers to do the impossible, move his warships over dry land. Using wooden logs coated in animal fat as rollers, about 70 ships were pulled up and over the hills of Galata. Imagine the sight. Under the dim light of torches, massive wooden ships seemed to sail across the earth, moving through forests and steep slopes in a single extraordinary night. At dawn, the people of Constantinople woke up in terror. Al-Fatih's fleet was already inside the bay, right before their eyes. Total victory was now inevitable. On May 29th, after 53 days of exhausting battle, the final defense of the city finally broke. Al-Fatih did not enter the city with rage or a desire for destruction. He entered with his head bowed, stepping down from his horse and placing a handful of soil on his turban as a sign of humility. His first steps led him to the Hagia Sophia, a masterpiece of architecture. There he met the local citizens who were trembling with fear, expecting a tragic end. But from the young sultan's mouth came a promise of protection. He ordered that every citizen remain safe and that their places of worship be respected. From that moment on, Constantinople transformed into Istanbul, a city where East meets West, and the young man who once held a worn-out map had now rewritten the history of the world forever.